What's up, y'all? Another episode of Old School Law. I am Dan Tron, and I am here with my main man, Wolf,
Yo, what's up?
and then a very, very special guest, superstar, PC builder, Etsy store runner, the man, Arcade Adam, down below.
What's happening, guys?
So this is episode 13, lucky number 13, rolling into the holiday season. I am stoked. All right, so hey, Wolf, today is going to be it's a little out of our wheelhouse, not really, but sort of, because you know how we were with growing up and everything. That's why I'm so happy that we have Adam here, because this is going to be really fun. We're going to have some memories that are going to pop up. I know that we're not even thinking about right now. Wolf, why don't you go ahead and tell them what we're talking about?
So, today's episode is we're taking a back seat from all of the consoles that we've been talking about, and we're actually going back to, I want to say, 80s, 90s, and 2000 PC gaming in the house. And I can't think of a better guest than who we have on, Arcade Adam, who is, I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, an expert on all things PCs. So I just can't wait to dive into this today. It's going to be amazing. And actually, we're going to start off with our guest and let him decide how he wants to attack this, because I'm just in Adam's world right now. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a computer nerd first and foremost, and I cut my teeth. I mean, my first earliest memories growing up, I was playing blackjack on one of my dad's computers with the green and black screen. It wasn't even color. It was like a IBM two. We were
Apple
having
II?
trouble figuring out which
App-
computer it was. It was something he brought home from work,
You
and we're thinking I was around 3 and 4 years old, and somehow I remember playing like text-based blackjack. So that's how deep my PC gaming goes. Somewhere in the mid '80s is where I started. But as you can see, I brought some of the stuff that I still have laying around. There's a lot of stuff I don't have. I wasn't as much of a collector as you guys are. I didn't hang on to a lot of things, but I do have some things, and I have a unscripted thing that we can go into later on. I've got maybe not the original boxes, but I've got one of those old '90s like audio binders of just CDs that people
Yes.
kept in their cars. Except mine is full of PC games.
Oh man.
So that might be
Awesome.
fun. So we can go through some of that stuff. But where do you guys want to start? Like, should we start like '80s, '90s?
It doesn't really matter. So
Yeah.
the whole thing that's fun about this is just us sitting down talking about games that we remember playing, some that they don't necessarily have to be great games, but something that holds true, that's near and dear to our hearts, that we remember playing. And if you're fine with it, I'll just give it a start, because I already got an
Sure.
idea of
Yeah,
one.
go for it.
So
I
I'm
gotta
gonna
crack
go.
one anyway.
I'm gonna go all the way back. Adam's quite a bit younger than us. We'll just say he's a spring chicken. Um, so as I'm more like fried chicken at this point, but so I'm gonna go back to, I want to say it's fourth or fifth grade, and Apple II, I want to say, is what it was right around that time. I remember playing at school, and I'm gonna throw it for this is gonna. Okay, if you guys look this game up when you hear about this, and some of you might remember Odell Lake.
Yes. Yes. It was kindergarten for me though.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, dude, Odell Lake. That game, I remember trying to catch these freaking fish. Oh, it was so much fun, and I don't even remember what it was about. Was it even text based? I don't even.
No,
Yeah,
it was visual. You
yeah,
were a fish.
yep,
You were a certain kind of fish, and they told you what lake you were in, and that we're supposed to clue you in as to, can you eat this algae?
yep,
Can you eat this bigger fish? And sometimes you could, and sometimes you couldn't. It was like
yep.
educational.
Yeah, and that was the
Mm.
cool part, because that was when I first started getting, because right around that time, there's like, I want to say, was that around Nintendo? I think that was just starting consoles and stuff, but starting to see video games coming into school. I remember even before Apple II, I want to say we even had the other older IBMs that were the green screen that Adam was talking about. Like it was two-tone green, right? It was just like
Yep.
Mhm.
green, and then it was really like liquid baby poop green is what you saw on
Mhm.
there. And
Yep.
Yeah, so that's my first one, Odell Lake, and that's what we're talking about. That's the old school. Like you kids nowadays have no idea. Y'all with their Mortal Kombat 1 coming out, playing it
Yeah.
on your control panels, all this downloads, that Starfield. No, this was original Lakefield. This was like as basic as it got. It was so awesome.
Do
Anyways,
you remember the publisher of Odell Lake?
ooh,
Can I take a guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Was it Broader Bound?
No, but that's a good guess because
Okay.
Border. You might be right. I thought it was Border Bound or Broader Bound, something like that. But they did a lot of stuff. But this was specific. I grew up in Minnesota at the time in the late '80s. The publisher on Odell Lake was Minnesota Educational Computing
Yep.
Consortium.
there was a ton of those.
MECC.
Yep,
Yeah.
that was what
Big, and 5 1/4 floppies for both Apple and IBM.
dude
floating around everywhere.
That was, if I remember right, that was like I want to say that was Apple. What's his name? Really, who was he was
Steve?
yeah, Steve Jobs. He was pushing really hard to get like brand notoriety, right? They knew that computers were starting to go into school, so they like pushed a lot of those computers out to hopefully get people comfortable with their software, get comfortable, so there would be that brand loyalty, and then spread into household PCs because he knew that that's the way it was going to go.
He
You're
was giving
right.
sweetheart deals to educational departments left and right. They had a whole, if I remember correctly, the Apple IIe was an educational focused model of the Apple II.
Yeah.
That computer that was their bread and butter for like 8 years. They stretched that out for forever.
And you know who saved him is your Minnesota Educational Board, whatever that was, because that's where everybody went from. Like that was now that I'm remembering, that was where it started. It was like boom, all gone. Like there were schools because that's what came. I remember seeing that at my school when it came in. That was the package that was delivered, and you had these like 12 games that were delivered, and then it was, oh dude, yep, flashing me
If
back.
you want a nostalgia hit, look at the logo. It slaps you right in the face because that logo was a long-term logo. It was like 10 years.
Yeah,
it was the
it was like block letters, right?
Yeah, block letters with that green 80s like line, but getting bigger on the way down. Like you'll not recognize it.
I
That's
get
one of
bigger
those
on the
like
way down, too.
subconscious logos where you're like, whoa, yeah, when you see it.
So just real quick, based on that, I wonder if this was part of that package because I remember my middle school having computers, and I remember going into the computer lab, and I had to have a friend start it up for me because I'm inept. But I remember playing a game. It was kind of like Pac-Man. I think it was called KC Munchkin, and it was like an educational game, and you would gobble up numbers and stuff.
Number munchers.
Number munchers. That's it.
Yeah,
Number
that is
munchers.
one of the
That was
most
another
popular
MEC.
games. Yeah,
That's it. I
Number
can't believe
munchers.
you got that.
Heck yeah. No, dude, that game was Number Munchers, Odell Lake, and there was like Lemonade Stand where there was 2 modes where you'd operate a lemonade stand and grow tomato plants. And I remember distinctly you could balance your advertising spend versus your budget and really take off. And there was I was trying to teach you profit and loss basically in a basic level.
Jeez,
so
man,
cool.
that's memory lane right there.
Number
Yeah,
muncher. Was that your
I'm gonna
first
look
one?
up this MEC.
For me,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like my first memory of like computer games. I remember I was fascinated. I was like, damn. And it was so boring because it was trying to teach you math. Like Adam said, each game was focusing on something. That seemed like that lemonade stand was like on basic economics principles in grade school. And this was like a math type of thing. And yours was who the hell knows.
So
I don't know.
It doesn't even matter, right? At that point, it was like, what? You mean
Yeah.
I get to play on a computer and play, even if it's a crappy game, I still get to play games at school?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. I'm sold.
So while we're on the topic of MECC, we can't move on from these guys until you talk about Oregon Trail.
Oh, yeah.
That was the next.
That was my next one.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry. I
No,
ruined
that
this
was
for
good.
Brian.
No, you did perfect. It was your turn, anyways. Oregon
Yep.
Trail. Go ahead. Give us the rundown.
So again, these were the guys that I believe is one of those scenarios where they didn't develop it, but they were the distributors, and
Correct.
it was part of the education package. And I remember distinctly there was the version that came on Apple II kind of blew your mind because it had that full screen wipe.
Yep.
You had that MIDI sound hit in your face. The Apple II had a decent speaker, and you're just like, this is a multimedia experience all of a sudden coming out of your calculator, and you're like, whoa. Like that was like a first moment where you're like, this thing can do more than just teach me. It's kind of entertainment too. At least that's how I perceived it back in the day. It made me sit back and go, wait a minute, what else can this thing do? And it started to, get the gears spinning a little.
That started me off with my puzzle solving and probability type game love, because I'm like, all right, how much food are we going to carry? Who's going to die of dysentery? Who's going to get bit by a snake? Do we have meds? How many extra wheels? How many oxen do we have?
Yep.
How much ammunition? And that was that point where I started actually thinking through that process of going, all right, so I'm not going to be able to account for everything, but what's the highest probabilities of things that I'm going to have happen? And then all of a sudden you just die anyways, and you're like, all right, cool. It was like the first Dark Souls, right? You never really win. You just get a little better every time. And it's like, yeah, rolling the dice. It's like, oh, okay, everything's going so great. Oh, your kid just tripped, fell, and broke their leg. All right, well, I guess we cut it off, or we feed the kid to the oxen. That's what's gonna happen. No, they didn't give us that option.
No,
Man, if you got to Fort Kiowa, you were in good shape.
Oh, dude, that game was awesome. I remember
it was
playing
also brutal though. It kept you coming back because it was so brutal. You'd be going so good. You'd have it so tight. You'd have like the perfect setup, and
then a
boom,
freeze.
everybody's dead.
Yeah, then a freeze. Like you get stuck, and everyone just dies of getting frozen to death. It's like, oh my gosh.
God.
But that one was cool because I remember playing that green screen and Apple II. I remember playing it both ways, and remember trying to ford the river. Like it's like, oh,
Sure.
am I gonna? How deep is this river? You think I'm gonna be able to make it across? I don't have enough money to pay for the what is it, the barge to go across. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And you do it, and the first time you make it, you're like, yes. And the next time you're getting all cocky, and you're like, I think we're all right. I think we'll be good. Oh.
You see the Conestoga wagon going into the river, and you're like, oh God, please don't make it.
Yep.
Then it rolls, and you hear that
the graphic where the wheels just go poof.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, so good.
Oh man, that's awesome. I almost wonder too, in that package that you guys are talking about, I swear I remember like they had like an almanac too.
Oh,
like I remember being in the computer lab, and you could like go to like an encyclopedia, and you could like look something up, like a word, and it might have like a graphic or a sound or something. I was like, wow. I don't know if that was part of the education package that they were kind of putting out to schools.
That was later. I remember seeing it. Yeah, there was like encyclopedias on disc. Those were really cool. Yeah, those were really, really neat. And then also around that time, I think was the first time, and I'm thinking text-based stuff too, but I think around that time is when I played the first Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah.
So
that was a big one.
Again, there it goes. Me and those games that I remember, because those are the ones that made me think, like problem solve, probabilities, what might be going on. I got to look outside of the box. Where are my clues? What is it telling me? Because it gives you hints. And so it's like, and then sometimes it won't give you hints. It expects you to know certain things. So I'm like, oh, am I just an idiot, or do I actually know this stuff? And yeah, all of that stuff was around kind of the same time. I want to say, yeah, it was like the end of my grade school, and it was going into my middle school.
I got it pulled up. Wolf called it. This is the one that was distributed by Borderbund, and it was 1990 was when the first Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was released. Or it says publication date 89, so right around there.
Damn, 89. And you know what, Dan? Not only problem solving, because it was so much fun. It was like you were saying, the clues, and it was like playing the board game Clue, but it really helped with geography. I remember playing that game, and I was learning about world cities, and you saw the airplane travel to Europe, and you had to. It was really cool. It was really helping out with a lot of stuff, like you said.
That one was a mind expander. The travel, like you said, the kids, it opened your eyes up to like, there's more than just this school that they make me go to every day.
We need more of that kind of stuff than we need TikTok and YouTube. No offense to YouTube, of course, but I'm just saying, like us kids, nowadays, like even my kids, like you can see all around the world with your phone but there's something different with actually trying to figure stuff out, not having all the answers directly in the palm of your hand. I remember having to actually go to libraries and read things and stuff to try and hunt down data. And I think it changed how I deal with stuff, not one way or another. Not saying it's bad or good, but I think we need to mix up more of that stuff,
Hmm.
personally.
I think for me personally, it ruins moments of discovery because it made acquiring that data or having that aha moment so much more difficult. It was risk and reward. Like you had to earn it more.
Yeah,
And now it's like, oh, it's always there, so I don't need to invest time in figuring it out because I'll just be able to always do it.
right.
And I think kids don't have the okay, I need to actually go do something to get that reward, whatever it is, looking things up or experiences or just learning something new on accident or whatever.
And you could apply that to other things, right? Like just eh, and I hate to go this route, but that's how my mind works. Porn.
Mm.
Um, I'm these
Okay.
kids, right on their
we're on
phone,
we're on the train now,
Pornhub,
buddy.
and I had to work for it. I had to I had to get VHS cassettes from my dad who had it hidden in a cedar chest or like a Playboy magazine, and now it's right at their fingertips.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's fair. That's
uh,
fair.
Sorry, guys at home. I had to.
just
No, hey, it's all relevant and it's part of the risk and reward because you had to like sneak around and you were watching those scrambled channels and nonsense and just waiting for a moment when it was just lined up.
Hmm.
oh man, just and you had to say right at your fingertips. We're just talking just the tips. That's just the tips. Oh
Oh,
my
real
gosh.
quick before we get too
Yep.
far down the road, I looked it up while you guys were talking. The tomato plant game I was talking about is called The Marketplace.
Oh,
I think I remember that actually. No.
1982. So that was
Hmm.
the whole budget versus
Hmm.
advertising dollars and that kind of thing. I still think
sweet.
about that today when I'm like selling stuff on Etsy, like how much advertising should I do? I think of this stupid game.
Right? Yep. Hey, if the mathematics work back then, they still work now. Just the
Sure.
numbers
Yeah.
might be inflated. You know what
Oh,
I'm saying?
just a little.
Yeah.
Just a little.
So do you have anything else on those older ones? Do you want to move a little bit forward? Anybody else got a next game that you want to talk about?
Yeah,
We've been just kind of bouncing around. Go ahead.
I got one that's in this in kind of the next gen, right when computers were starting to be able to do polygons.
Okay.
And for me, I've always been into aviation. I've had an aviation bug. Even as a young kid, I had always had the flight sim set up and all that stuff. Was definitely into flight simulator. But before all that, there was a Disney title called Chuck Yeager's Air Combat. I don't know if you
Remember
guys
that.
did that one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unique because it wasn't just another flight sim. It also had elements of combat. And then on top of that, it allowed you to film your flying through the lens of a movie, like you were making a
Oh,
movie. So you could record your stunts and stuff.
that sounds awesome. I never played that game.
It was a wild, weird concept. It reminds me of Split Second, where it's like it probably wasn't incredibly popular, but it was like a wild idea, and it kind of was an open world thing. And then also before YouTube and social media, you could record and save your experiences you had in the game and play them back for other people with this
That's
whole
cool.
engine. You could actually edit the movie. You could like clip several sequences and different airplane things together and make a movie out of it.
So
It was wild.
you can make PC Top Gun, is what you're telling
Pretty
us.
much. It was, I
Hmm.
mean, it was very basic. I think graphics were like hard driving. It was very
Oh, okay.
basic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
that's right. Basic isn't bad
No.
that time. No. Go
It's a
ahead,
good
Wolf.
one.
Yeah,
No,
what
that's a great
it
one. I
is.
mean, I remember my friend having that and showing it to me, and I remember it being really complicated when he was trying to explain it, like how you could record, and it was really cool. It was like the early stages of like a bad PS1 game, like you were saying with the polygon
Yeah.
graphics and stuff. But
I don't even think there were textures in this. This was just polygons, colors, and
yeah,
shading, dithering, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
yeah.
So for old games, I mean, if we're gonna go like last round 80s, I'm trying to remember all of my memories of like the Commodore 64, the floppy disk. I remember one called Karateka, which
Oh,
I thought was so cool. Did you guys ever play that
I
Karateka? It
don't
was like a karate game, and then there was one called Yer Yay Kung Fu. year ye I don't know. I'm trying to remember, and I just remember it was so cool. Like you'd like hop onto the screen and then you fought like all these different types of like karate masters. They had different weapons. One guy had like a bow staff, and then one guy had like ninja stars, and I just thought that was so cool. I know I'm botching up the pronunciation. Yer, it's all Y's, like Yer Yai Yei Kung Fu. Yer Yi Kung Fu or something.
Found Karateka. This looks like Kung Fu on the NES. Like they just straight ripped that. Like that's it looks identical. I've never seen it before. Commodore 64 for me, my dad had one, and I have like one fleeting memory of him showing me how to play MASH because he was super into the TV show MASH. And that's like my only Commodore 64 memory.
Okay. Yeah, what the heck is that? It's I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I
thought you were just go ahead.
Look at it right here.
Oh, you got it?
Yep.
Whoa, that's
a
heck of a title.
That's it.
Konami,
1984. I thought that was the coolest game. Yeah. How do you pronounce that? Yar Kung Fu.
Yar.
Yar.
Yeah, that's a pirate kung fu. No, I thought you were trying to start like a lawnmower. Yeah, yee.
Yeah, seriously. That's what it sounded like. Oh my God. But those games, I mean, Commodore 64 was really, now thinking back, it was awesome. The graphics were cutting edge. I remember just being in awe at some of those computer games.
I was just going to say, this looks if you told me to guess, I would not guess 1984 for these graphics.
I know. Well, they were like amazing.
Kung Fu was like 86, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, for Nintendo, you're right. Yep.
They probably did steal it because back in the day they were jacking everybody's stuff.
Oh yeah, there was no copy
and
protection.
Now Nintendo don't play with anyone. It's like, really, you were the worst one coming up.
Yeah,
come on,
seriously.
Pretty much.
Jeez.
Pretty much.
Okay, so we're talking about like Commodore 64. I don't have a whole lot of experience with Commodore 64. I didn't have anybody that had any. I mean, I think I had one friend that had it, but I don't have any memories of Commodore 64 outside of remembering its gray color. That's about it. I don't have any game history thoughts though. Do we have any other Commodore 64s that you guys can think of?
No, but I want to ask Adam something because I know he's the expert. I remember my friend, I remember the boxes he had, kind of the way Adam is displaying his PC box games. He had a shelf, and I remember him saying, "Okay, hold on a sec, Dan." And he pulled out the box, and in the box was like, it told you how to start the game. And if you didn't have the right sequence of stuff, you couldn't play the goddamn game. And I remember he lost the insert, and we spent he must have went through like 20 command codes to try to get it started, and we couldn't. I remember us being frustrated.
You experienced the very first copy protection for PCs. So they knew you could take a 5 1/4, 3 1/2, even CDs further down the road, and you could physically make copies, bam, bam, boom, all day, no problem. But what you couldn't make copies of was the manuals and all of the boxes and all the literature. So a lot of these old games, even back in the 80s, they'd start up and they'd be like, what's the second word in the fourth sentence of the manual? And if you didn't have that, you were toast. Now, that also gave rise to, on all the BBS boards, people would share their electronic versions of the manual, and it was constant cat and mouse, just like today with De Nouveau and all the garbage.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yep. That to me, like what you saying that, Adam, it goes full circle with emulation. Like how it started with that, and it's like now I'm thinking of like techno powered and what you guys are talking about today, and it's just wow, man.
It just builds. It's all layers.
Yeah.
They're throwing encryption in there, and they're throwing copy protection. They're throwing encrypted executables that you can't unpack. I mean, it's just, and you got rolling codes on external keys. It's an evolution, man. Every new generation just has their own thing. And now with De Nouveau, they got like kernel level stuff and malware. We don't need to get into that stuff, but you know what I mean? It just builds. It just keeps building. And it's just a circle of life. Lion King had it right.
Yeah, only with less singing and more corn chip smell and sweat. That's about it. You know what I'm talking? Yeah. So, hey, do you guys? Okay, so I'm gonna go into something else. So, two things really quick. I remember the what is it? The hard-boiled egg cleaning roller inside the mouse, the first mouse. Like I remember. Do you remember that? Like the mouse
I
where you'd
remember the
open up
cleaning
the
the
bottom.
mice, but I never boiled
No,
mine.
no, but so you take it out, and that little gray ball was like
I
if you have a
remember.
hard-boiled egg yolk,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So do you remember taking that out and having to clean
Oh
it,
yeah.
and then clean
Yep.
the rollers and all that kind of stuff, dude?
Yep.
Like when we were talking about doing this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that because you're starting to play and you're doing something, you're like, oh, it's not, dang it, I got to clean this
Sticking.
thing.
Sticking. Yep.
Dude.
And back then, you'd have to pick up the mouse because the DPI was so low. You'd
Yep.
have to like get to the edge, and then
Yep.
you'd
Keep
get
going.
good at like flicking and then coming back, and
Yep.
yeah, doing that whole thing.
So good. So, but
It's like muscle memory. If I gave you guys that thing, you'd be doing it right now. Just
oh
like
my
flick,
gosh.
flick.
I wish
come
I
back
still
around.
had some of that stuff because there's
Same.
an old like the grayish white color PC tower. I remember I had a really cool one. I was like, oh dude, I'd love to put a new PC guts inside this old piece of crap tower. That'd
I
be
am
so
so
cool.
mad at myself when I moved, gosh, 8 or 9 years ago now. I threw away the first computer I built, and I can
Oh.
rattle it off
No.
still. It's an
Oh.
8-bit BX62 motherboard, Pentium 2 400 megahertz processor, 16 megabytes of RAM.
Yes.
Had a 4 gig hard drive originally. Oh man, that thing was legit. And I think I want to say my first video card was a Matrox G400. It wasn't Nvidia back in the day. It was a Matrox, Matrox. Made
Nice.
graphics cards towards the late 90s there for a minute, and it was the first cheap card that you could play. If we're okay skipping a beat,
Yeah.
going to
Head in.
Unreal Tournament. That
Yes.
was one of my jams. When Unreal Tournament dropped, I'd have to look up the year, but I'm gonna say 97-ish. That was like, whoa, okay, I need a video card. Because before then you could get away with software, 3D rendering and stuff like that on your games, like with Quake and Quake 2 and whatever, and Doom 2. But that game, if you didn't have a 3D processor, you were out. Like it
Yep.
didn't work. And then Matrix, again, hardware got super goofy back then. That was one of those cards where that was your 3D card, and then you had a 2D card, and you looped out your VGA connection, and then ran your monitor through your VGA card from your 2D card, your 3D card to your monitor.
Yeah.
And it was just
Wow.
a wild setup. Like that was okay.
Uh-huh.
Damn.
Well, we didn't know. We were still figuring stuff out, right?
I mean, yeah, back then, that's how I cut my teeth because I'm in the IT industry as for a profession. The way I cut my teeth was making auto exec bat boot disks for games where you had to allocate all of your hardware addresses for your sound card and allocate all of your system resources in RAM to boot Doom or Duke Nukem
Oh my
3D
gosh, yeah.
or whatever the hell game where you just had to basically whole ass every single resource you had to the game on those early PC titles and booting to DOS. DOS is really where I cut my teeth on that stuff. It made you kind of understand what the hell the computer was doing.
DOS.
Yeah. The computer talk. Like, what does the
Yeah.
computer need you to say to it? Do
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dirty command line, Timmy Wolf.
Yeah. Speak nerdy to us, Adam.
Seriously.
So I'm gonna say my game. Thinking about that trackball and whatnot, Space Cadet 3D.
Ooh, I didn't play that,
I'm
but
not
my
familiar
buddies were
with that
super
one.
into that one.
So Space Cadet 3D pinball. Space Cadet 3D pinball. Sorry, it was a pinball game. It was like it was like a default game just on all PCs at some point. When was this? It was
It's
probably
either 3.1 or 95.
yeah,
look it up.
it was right around 90. I want to say, I don't know, 93, 94, somewhere around there. But I remember playing that game for freaking hours. It was terrible too. You look at it now, you're like, dude, this pinball game sucks. But back then there wasn't a whole lot of stuff. So I was like, I remember just playing it. It was already there. It was free. And actually, I think the first time I played it, believe it or not, I think I was over at an ex-girlfriend's house. Don't ask me what I was doing over there, but I went over there and we were hanging out, and then I was like, "Oh, let me check out this computer right here." And then I was like, "Oh, what's this pinball game on here? Let me play that." Yeah, that was awesome. That was an awesome game.
Sweet.
Bundled with Windows 95 from Microsoft, originally packaged with Microsoft Plus, which was an addition to Windows. It was a money grab. You bought your $60 Windows 95 license, and they wanted you to buy this Plus because it was desktop backgrounds, themes, screensavers, because that's when people still paid money for those.
Solitaire.
and it had that in there, and that's when that came out. So it's August of '95. And I misspoke when you said 3D Commander. I thought you were going to say Wing Commander. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, Wing Commander.
Wing Commander was a big one in my friend group, but I never got into it. It wasn't one of those things.
Is that Minesweeper? Was that part of the package? I remember, like, if you had a PC, everybody had Minesweeper.
Yeah, Windows had
Yep.
Minesweeper.
Okay.
Minesweeper, Solitaire, and there was another there was another card game that I never got into. I forget what it was called, but there was like 4 or 5.
And
back
Space
then.
Cadet, I think Space Cadet
Yeah,
3D
it was part
Pinball
of
was
it.
one of those ones too. So
Because that was also getting nerdy again. Windows 95 had the Easter egg where it had the Weezer song. The music video was built into the CD. You guys remember that? Buddy Holly, I believe, the music video, because Bill Gates was a huge fan. And then Weezer, I was living in Wisconsin at the time. That was like a tie-in for me. And I was like, this billionaire crazy Microsoft dude is a huge fan of this like local band, and they blew up. And now it's packaged on every fucking operating system CD on the planet. Like, it was this weird, like, dichotomy. Like, I don't know if you guys knew that, but it was an Easter egg. It was on every CD copy of Windows 95.
Just in the files.
Yeah, it was like a 240p copy of the music video, because that's the song. Maybe you probably have seen it where they have the Happy Days.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
In the music video. That's that one. Yeah.
Very
Whoa,
cool.
that was interesting. I love Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Stories and things. That's super cool.
I agree. All right, who's up next? You, Wolf, or is it Adam?
Okay, yeah, I that's fine. It doesn't matter who goes. I'm fine listening. I don't mind hearing Adam throw out another.
Throw out
title.
another one, Adam.
Okay, maybe should we go to the book, to unscripted? No, here, before we go too far into the 90s, we got to talk about this one.
Yes, Doom and Doom 2. Good call.
So this is the first game that made my parents sit up and take notice as to what I was doing on the computer, where they were just like, wait a minute.
There's pentagrams and
they're the occult, is the blood and gore, even though it was extremely pixelated. This is the first game that make them sit up and take notice. And then before this, I was playing Odell Lake on all the educational titles. There was like some sort of mountain or math mountain where the guy was running around. He had to solve math to get to the top. There was another, it was all educational titles. They were big into, there's a theme there. I think they thought I was dumb or something, because it was all educational PC titles. It was no big deal. But then when I started asking for this stuff, and then they started like noticing what the heck was going on, then there was starting to see some restrictions and some rules around using the computer. Obviously, because this stuff, Doom was like my first game obsession. I was a casual gamer until this, because I got this guide. I remember buying this with my own money because it had the level guides. Because back then the internet still wasn't a thing where you could find stuff like this, and I was too stupid to find my way through some of the levels on my own. Because as you guys know, you play this game, you got to find those key cards and unlock certain rooms to progress. And 3/4 halfway through the game, I was on the struggle bus. So I remember going to CompUSA, my local computer store, seeing this, going, okay, I'm going to drop my own money on this thing. And then like, here we go. Like, I'm obsessed now.
And you still have it. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's in good shape too. It wasn't like you left it out, you used it, and you left it in a bathroom and someone took a pee on it. None of that.
No, I mean, it's well loved. It's not in perfect shape, but I definitely read the crap out of this. I was just going to find a quick year, because I don't remember when Doom 2 hit the scene.
Well, Doom 1 was 93.
Yeah, I was
this is probably 95.
95 probably.
Yeah.
Because I remember playing that at that girlfriend's house too.
Because I think we should also take a second to plug John Carmack's documentary right now. There's the Doom Guy book just dropped, and then there's that first-person shooter documentary that the Galloping Ghost guys have been recommending everyone.
Right.
And it kind of, the Doom Guy book and the first person shooter documentary kind of combine forces and cross the streams a little bit. And it says it fills in the gaps. I have not read or watched either, but I think if you're into first person shooter games, both of them are must watch, must read things. But I can't find a year in this thing. 94.
All right.
94.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, Doom was huge for me, and then it really took off with Duke Nukem 3D. And that's the game I had to be careful, because thankfully I
Shake it,
found the
baby.
strippers before my mother did.
Yeah. I remember the shake it, baby.
Shake it, baby.
And then
Yeah.
Shake it,
I've got
baby.
balls of steel.
Like, that one was like, okay, trying to turn the sound down a little and like,
Yeah.
make sure the parents aren't coming around the corner because damn.
That was
So good.
96, I think, right?
Oh, 96? Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
for
But
Duke
but we're
Nukem.
missing. We got to go backwards before we get to like Doom it. Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Oh,
yeah.
92, Wolfenstein 3D.
Yep,
Yep.
that Hitler, and I remember actually making it all
Mhm.
the way to the end and fighting Mecha Hitler or whatever. He had like these like machine gun arms. Do you remember that? It was
Yep.
like Tune in Tokyo. That's not what I'm doing, but yeah, and it was
Oh,
like,
pie.
oh dude, oh pie, and so, but yeah, trying to dodge and around, but as he's shooting at you, dude. I remember that game. That game was awesome, but that started me off with and understanding what was going to happen in Doom and Doom 2 because that game had the first like hidden doors that I remember, like there were walls, and so you'd end up going around and hitting all these walls. So you'd hit like 6,000 walls and find two that would actually
Yeah.
move, right?
Yeah.
So you just hit every single wall as you're going around. But
Well, again, it goes back to that risk and reward and discovery. You had to
Yep.
earn it because you didn't have a guide. You didn't have the internet telling you it's so easy. So once you
Yep.
found one secret, you're like, oh my God, every wall's a secret. So you just.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I still remember that game though. It's like throwing Levin, and if they die, and they fall back. It's so good.
Well, on my sound card, it sounded more like Mein Leben.
Yeah, and then you guys can remember. Some of you, hopefully, you remember the sound of the boom, 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 boom when you would grab like the ammo and stuff like that.
It was
Yeah.
the food that made the.
Mhm.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
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 It was. Yeah, that game was awesome though.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
can't talk about.
Well, even to this
Doom.
day, Bethesda has done a good job with Wolfenstein, in my opinion. I know it's controversial, Bethesda, whatever,
Right.
but their engine is still just a little buggy every time they release a Wolfenstein game. And that's for me, that's part of the magic. When all of a sudden your enemy's clipping through the floor and your partner that's supposed to follow you is moonwalking through the universe. Stuff like that, it just keeps it fun.
Yeah.
Like the whole Nazi thing, it's not meant to be super serious in my opinion. And I love that part about it.
Yeah, that game is definitely, there's some nostalgia with that one for sure.
Yes. I one of my, I don't know if I grabbed the CD case, but all the Wolfensteins, they're all immediate buys for me. There's no hesitation. Even the very recent one, I always have fun. My buddy Chris, that you guys know, I always grab him and we just go to town and play together. It's great.
Nice.
But Wolfenstein. So for me, in my experience, the original Wolfenstein, I did not have that. My buddy across the street had it, and he had another game, Commander Keen.
Oh, I remember that one.
On PC, and that was like an eye-opener too for me, because you always, I don't know about you guys, but growing up, it was those games that you didn't personally own. You had to go to a friend's house to play them, and then you just like couldn't stop thinking about it because you didn't have direct access to it. Stuff like that. Like you had that kind of a thing back in the day. Like that was, just made you that much more interested because it wasn't yours or something.
Right.
I do. I want to give two examples of that, and I love the way you phrase that, because it's sometimes it's not what you have, it's what you don't have that you start kind of like perseverating. Oh my God, I wish I had this. I want this. Maybe I will try to get it. And I remember two games at a friend's house. This is early 90s for me because I'm a little older, but I remember Lemmings. I really liked because it had like a puzzle kind of thing to it, and it just a little bit of strategy. And then the one that blew my underwear off was Myst in 1993. I something about it, like it was so hard and complex, and there were clues, and I just remember we only got a chance to play a little bit because when I had play dates, it was like for an hour at a time, and you just got little bits of tastes. And I remember going home and saying, "Oh man, I wish I could be working on trying to get a little further in Myst." And the graphics I thought were great for 93 on Myst. I mean, they were really something else.
I'm glad you said 93, because for me, Myst was a little bit above my intelligent quotient at the time. I so wanted to complete that game, but I got so stuck like halfway through.
Yeah.
And again, there was no guides or whatever. And I think I don't think I ever got the guide, but I picked it up in the store and I remember reading about it, trying to figure stuff out. But Myst was a title for me that I got so frustrated, I abandoned it for like a year or maybe 2, and then came back and finally finished it when I was 11
It
or
was the
12.
Dark Souls of that time, without a
But,
doubt.
but it
Like
was
it
so
was
good.
punishingly hard.
It was really, and then that because you had the stop motion, the rendered scenes, it made you wait. My computer that was tearing through the lines. It was not a quick experience. And then you had the rewards of those full motion videos where they
Yep.
would do the layered ghost effects sometimes and stuff, and you're just like,
Yep. The FM, what were they called? FMVs?
FMVs, yeah,
Full motion videos.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've got another FMV title. Don't let me forget. Coming up too. I think it was a '95, if I remember correctly. I'll look it up real quick. But
Go ahead, just keep
Yeah,
going.
just
Keep
throw
going.
it out, man.
Oh,
We're
okay,
just
ready.
let me throw this. Is
firing.
probably gonna go way over your head, but again, it's one of those games where that just grabbed me and wouldn't let go. Under a Killing Moon.
Oh, that's
Anybody?
hidden gem.
Don't know it.
FMV game. There's a primary character called Tex Murphy. He's a private eye. It's set in a post-apocalyptic. What's that movie? That 1984 movie that they just
Escape
did a
from
remake.
LA.
No, it got a remake recently.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. It's a
Okay.
Blade Runner universe style FMV. Only a cheesy private eye is your character. So every single interaction you have with someone, it's like choose your own adventure. Like you get to pick what
cool.
you say, and then they have a video response as to your choose your own adventure, and you get to try to pick your path to get to the end of the game. I want to say it was definitely more than 4 CDs. It was one of those games where every 15 minutes you were throwing a new CD in there because there's so many videos, and that's what made it so annoying. Is like you'd get the thing and you're like, what happens next? And it's like throw the next CD in and listen to it for 10 minutes, and then you might get to play that kind of thing. It's definitely one of those games that inspired a lot of back in my day. You had to wait to play video games, kind of things.
Yep, and they didn't save.
Yeah, I think this did. This
I
had
know.
a progress,
PC, we didn't have to worry about that.
Certain save points. And stuff
PC
like
usually saved, which is great.
Yes, but it also screwed up. Like sometimes you'd save and then you'd load it and it'd be like,
Yep, it's gone.
Yeah.
All right, who's ready? You got
another I want to throw one in there.
Go ahead.
I have to,
throw
just because we've been talking about Full Circle, and by the way, Adam, your friend is awesome. Is it Chris Plata?
Yeah,
Chris is awesome. I agree.
So he's great, and he's I don't know, he every time like he pops on that chat, he's like leveled up 10 levels. I'm like, where do you find time to do this?
It's amazing.
Seriously.
He is amazing.
Well, the game that I wanted to mention is Diablo. I mean, that was 96, and it was a game changer for me because it was the closest that I got to, because I used to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm that nerd. I was a dungeon master. I'd have friends over. We'd stay up late. We'd order pizza, and it was a big deal. And we'd play for hours and hours. And Diablo was like Dungeons and Dragons come to life.
Yep.
You had 3 choices, I think, at the beginning of classes, and it was just really neat. Graphics were awesome. Sucked me in. I remember I got it for PS1 because at that point I was like all in on consoles. But Diablo, I'll never forget playing that on PC first and just being blown away.
I never got into the original Diablo. I had, again, friends that did, but that just wasn't my jam back in the day. It was Diablo 2 and 3 that I got into, and now 4, of course.
Right.
Yeah. It was another one. But you talking about that, because it was the same distributor, Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
Original Warcraft and Warcraft 2.
Yep.
Oh, I just showed everybody my CD keys. Is that bad?
No, it's blurred out. It's fine. Nobody can see that.
No,
you're seeing
whatever.
I'm sure they can find their own CD keys online.
Exactly, especially for a game from '96 or whatever that is. But those Warcraft, the originals, the RTS versions, because that's another one of my things. I was into real-time strategy a lot. That was a big one for me.
So then, Adam, I'm trying to think, if you were into RTSs, then you probably played like SimCity 2000 and like Civilization 2. Yeah. Oh, there it is. So you got the original. Sweet.
The original box, boys.
Look at how sexy that box is.
Yeah, seriously, that's like mint.
The
Oh,
original books,
there's your
Yep.
literature.
and then the CD. I got it all. This is a mint collection here. I played
Nice.
the heck out of this.
Yeah.
This was a big, because this was like a deluxe setup with all this stuff. This was a
Damn.
big deal for me. I played so many simulations and then would just be like, guess what, boys? It's UFO time or tornado or whatever disaster that your maniacal little mind came up with back then. And then you would also, I think part of the fun for me was watching your computers struggle to both melt down the city and then melt down the hardware at the same time. It would slow down and stuff.
Yeah, like boop, goop, 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 and like chop. Yep.
Yep. Oh, the sounds. There's so unique sounds with that. And then I was all over the place with the original Sim City, Sim Tower. Did you guys ever get into that one? That was a later title where it's same simulation, but you're in a high rise and you had guys running all over the place and you could actually track individual residents and stuff. It was wild.
Ooh. Yeah, I never got into the Sims stuff. I did a little Command and Conquer, and then Diablo. First Diablo I ever touched. Never touched any Diablo until Diablo 4. So
really?
Oh wow! Damn.
Wow.
Man.
Nope.
Damn,
When I told you guys I'm a Diablo virgin, that's what it was. Never played.
You are.
Diablo.
I thought I was the Diablo virgin. Damn.
So the thing for me is when it got to a point, I started playing more multiplayer games, and so and I didn't have a whole lot of my friends that I would play multiplayer games that were into Diablo, so I just ended up playing other stuff, and so that's what I remember. But yeah, both of those, I know those games. They're classics. I mean, anybody that's played old school PC games, like you were probably bringing up games that people were watching this going, PC games, I don't remember any of those. None of those are important. But some of these games you're talking about, they're gonna trigger some memories for people.
Yep,
that's for sure.
And if you guys are, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement.
I was gonna say if we're ready to dive into the RTS side of the pool, I've got a story. So, and you guys think I need your help with this too because, was it Game Pro was a popular magazine?
Yes,
I still have my Game Pro magazine.
Game Pro.
I'm pretty sure I had a Game Pro subscription, and you know how they came with demo discs in the back.
Yep.
I have this very awesome childhood memory of me and my buddy, another guy named Tom, or a different guy named Tom, that I was in my house. We were just bored as hell looking at Game Pros. He was like, demo disc, you haven't tried this one yet. We threw it in the computer and it installed Command and Conquer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't know if anybody remembers that install process. It was a full takeover multimedia experience where you had like the chick computer voice.
Yep.
Going like reticulating splines and be like, you're launching the nukes and the progress bars. Everything was 3D rendered, full motion video. Just the installer was like, whoa. And then you just throws you straight into that first battle. And you had those orcas and tanks and mammoth tanks and Red Alert was Tanya's, but had the commandos and stuff. But that just hooked the heck out of me. Westwood Studios just took me by the neck and was like, guess what, buddy? It's RTS time.
Yeah.
Great RTS. How about Age of Empires, 1997?
Oh, yeah.
That's a goddamn gem.
Yep.
And I wasn't really into RTSs, it sounds like, as much as Adam. I was, at that point, I was getting more into the fantasy stuff.
There it is.
Yep, there it is. Wow.
2 is where it's at. 2 is, that's the title you could play for like months and you were just in it. Age of Empires 2. My wife and I still play when I'm feeling confident enough to where she can just steamroll me because I think I'm good at RTS. Never play with my wife because she will just annihilate you. I guarantee it.
Wow.
I mean, and she was a casual. She was like, you want to play computer games? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you want to play RTS? I'm like, yeah. And then I was like going easy on her. No, she just wipes the floor with me every time. And it doesn't matter if it's Age of Empires, Command and Conquer. They did that Rise of Legends series, which was a play on Age of Empires. All of them. Just, you're done. Good luck. Thanks for playing.
That's like trying to race my kids in Hydro Thunder or Initial D.
Yeah, I heard they're unbeatable. Like
they just beat you with their
and Andy witnessed getting stomped by one of my daughters just playing with her feet on the steering wheel.
I want to see that. Where's that video?
Let's was wild. She does that stuff all the time. She's like, here, I'm gonna play with just my feet this time, and she's like using the boost with like her foot. She like so she'll push the throttle up with her foot, and then she just will like have her foot. Like when she needs to hit boost, she'll take her foot off and just press the button on the thing. Like,
how embarrassing!
I would love to witness that, but I would hate to actually endure the defeat.
Yeah,
You know.
ditto.
But that's what I think of when you said that your wife just it doesn't matter. Just certain
No,
things that they're
just
good at.
it's amazing. It's like she's not a computer person hardly at all, except being around me and
Right.
picking up what I do. But yeah, she just sits down and is like, "Oh, this is how you. Yep, you're done. Boom, gone. Strategy.
Nice. Yeah.
Gross.
That's I can see that. I can see her cerebral brain works well that way. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I recommend staying far away from that one. But before we get too far off
Yep.
track, Command and
Ready.
Conquer. So
Do it.
Westwood Studios, original Command and Conquer. They had a million expansions, DLC, but the mod community, man, holy cow! You could bring in your own tanks, your own levels, the multiplayer. My buddy that I talked about, Tom,
Hmm.
we were doing dial-up modem direct connect multiplayer. He was in the same neighborhood. This was back in the day. We didn't have
Nice.
broadband at the time, so we were, get off the phone, that whole thing.
Uh
Like
huh.
playing, and then my mom would pick up the phone and drop our connection, and like when they're in the
Mm.
of battle, and we'd
Yeah.
just lose our minds, and it was just an awesome experience. Because then that's inching towards a topic I want to talk about LAN parties, but we don't have to go there yet because Command and Conquer had Red Alert, Red Alert 2, kind of fell off the wagon on Red Alert 3, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys, but actually, I don't remember. Do you guys know if Red Alert 3 came out before or after Command and Conquer Generals?
I think it was before, wasn't it?
Was it before? Because Generals, in my opinion, was good. Then that came out in college, and I would talk my dorm room buddies into playing that with me, even though I would just wipe the floor with them. But I had a lot of fun doing it, like just toying with them. But yeah, that was actually, there's a good story there too. We were dorm room setting. My buddy, who is not into computers, but we were just playing games. We were like at each other's throats. This is like a 3-hour Generals game, and his girlfriend at the time is literally tapping her foot behind him because they're supposed to go to a house party or whatever,
Hmm.
and he just nagging the shit out of him, just poking,
Mhm.
and he just goes rage. He pushes back away from the desk in a fit of rage after I nuke his last base, and he goes, "All right, we'll go." Only she was still behind him, and he steamrolled her toe, which caused World War III fight. It was best. I got some
No.
popcorn. Those two were just at each other's throats
Oh,
for like an
damn.
entire weekend. It was great.
Wow.
That's sad times.
Yeah,
I-
no, it was funny. It was really fun. They made up. It was fine, but it was just
I'm
funny.
sure
that
they did.
the last act was
Yeah,
steamrolling
makeup
her toe
sucks.
after she was pissed for 3 hours.
So funny. Yep. Yet she was the one that was nagging at him too. So,
Yep.
but no responsibility. I know how that goes. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you another one. See if you guys remember this one. I remember playing this, and this is one of those ones again that was. I want to say, where did I play this? I think I played this at my dad's when he was selling real estate. He had a real estate office, and I was able to go into his office, and he had this game on his PC. And when he's doing his thing, I would be able to play it. Rolling Thunder.
Oh,
I remember Rolling Thunder.
that was an arcade title, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But it was on. I
Okay.
remember playing it on PC too. So that's why, and that was way back as well. So, but again, just PC games that popped up. Yes, they're gonna be other ones that are on consoles and stuff too. But I remember
Yeah.
playing Rolling Thunder specifically on PC first, and I liked that game a lot. That was, if you guys don't remember, it's a kind of a side scroller platformer,
Sure.
sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game. It's very iconic with just the guy with the gray pants and the red shirt just running
Mhm.
around and jumping and shooting. It was
I don't know if it's related, but I
Very
looked it up. This looks like an elevator action original or a spin-off, like, right?
possibly it could be before. Yeah, I don't remember.
The
Or a
main
spin-off.
game, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
Rolling
it's on
Thunder?
main,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's oh man, it was like on every platform: arcade, Commodore, Amiga, Nintendo,
Yep.
Atari ST, Spectrum. Even it had a PlayStation release probably in one of those like collections. But
Yep.
it doesn't. At a quick glance, it doesn't say anything about elevator action. But damn, does it look like it?
Yep. It does. But anyways, so there we go. I just threw that one out there. If you guys don't remember playing, Rolling Thunder is still fun.
No, I love it. That's
Yep.
a great one.
But that's a good thing to bring up, though, Larson. With your playing Rolling Thunder, there was a small window in what is this? When did this come out? Like early 90s? No, late 80s, 87, where PC releases and arcade releases were near parity. You
Yep.
could take your arcade game home with you and almost have the exact same experience. There was a really cool window in time
I remember that.
where it wasn't watered down for graphics, sound, controls, anything. You could almost there was a renaissance time in there where you could play arcade games at home before they really took off on
Yeah,
dedicated hardware.
and the only time that ever happened after that for PC was going to be most likely just Neo Geo for a console that was like
Mm-hmm.
for like arcade
Oh
to.
yeah.
Otherwise, there was always something that was had to be worked on because the hardwares they started separating, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
consoles stayed down here. Um, Arcades were more like PCs where they accelerated so fast. So, but yeah, Rolling Thunder, good one. Go. What do you got, Wolf? You got another one?
Uh, yeah, I do. And this is where my hatred for first person shooters came from.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, I get disoriented. I got all sorts of issues, but I remember my friend playing Star Wars Dark Forces
yeah.
oh,
I played the heck out of that.
yep.
1995, and it was like he was using the keyboard and stuff, and I was trying to, like, when it was my turn, it just wasn't working for me. I guess I was used to like joysticks and having direct control, and I felt disoriented, and I never really liked it. I mean, all my friends loved Quake
Yeah.
and Castle Wolfenstein, and, like, all of these first person shooters, and Counter Strike. I remember
Hmm.
Counter Strike was huge, and I couldn't get it, like, because I couldn't. I don't know. Some people, it's intuitive. Like, they just pick up. Like, my son,
Yep.
he loves first person shooters. He does it naturally, and then I just can't. I need a third person. I need to see my body in space. But
You,
anyhow, that's my memory is Star Wars Dark Forces, mid 90s PC game.
90, what did I just see? It was
5. It should be 5.
95. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. 95. To me, when that first, I remember having an argument with my friends because when that came out, I remember thinking, oh, that's the Quake engine. Like you could kind of see it, but no,
Mhm.
it was an engine developed specifically for that game. It just looked a lot like the Quake engine. But yeah, first person shooters, man. I started with Quake, Quake
Yeah.
2, Duke Nukem, all
Right.
that stuff. Like I was about it with Wolfenstein and those things. And then for me, I think I peaked with Quake 3 because, like I said,
Mm,
that was LAN party days for me. You
yep.
bring pick up your 80-pound monitor, you pick up your 40-pound computer
You
case,
throw it
you
in your red what is it, the red wagon, and you roll it.
oh, I didn't have a wagon. I wasn't that fancy, but you just try not to fall down the basement stairs of your buddy's house. You'd go down there, it would be Friday evening, and you just wouldn't emerge until Sunday afternoon. It was just
Damn.
fantastic.
Those were the
Wow.
days. I remember those days too, Adam.
Oh gosh, was that great? You didn't just cut your teeth too. That's where I learned everything I need to know about IT.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
the first 5 hours was getting the network and everybody's machines up and running on the network.
Hmm.
And back then you had IRQs and ports. Your
Yep.
9X operating systems were like, you touched me. What LAN card?
Hmm.
Nope. And then
Exactly.
we couldn't afford real switches. We had hubs with collisions, and you had to do all of your static networking. And sorry, I'm getting nerdy.
Interesting. No, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Yeah.
That's where I learned all this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, just jump in and help your buddy get on the damn game. Like, and we always yell, get in the game, get in the game. And we make fun of each other, like, oh, he's got the wooden computer because he had a piece of junk. I
Mm.
remember one of my friends, he was Indian and he didn't come from a well-off background. And we'd always make fun of him because his computer was always, the lesser used parts
Oh.
and stuff like that. And because, we were mean kids back in the day. But if you're a hardware nerd, he had the Intel Celeron, one of the first Celeron. He had the legendary 300A,
Oh.
where it was 300 megahertz versus my Pentium 2 400 megahertz. He could overclock the snot out of that thing up to 533. He somehow made it stable, and he would just wipe my face in it with benchmark after benchmark. His shitty computer was faster than my nicer computer.
Huh.
All that stuff,
Yeah.
and it would drive me crazy. And then I'd go home and try to overclock the snot out of my computer and all that stuff, and we go back and forth, and it was just a beautiful thing, and it taught me so much, and I loved it.
What
I loved every
what does
minute.
overclock mean? I hear you guys talk about it all the time, and I'm sure there's people listening that might not know either. So
Oh, sure. And for computer nerds, it's like a sense of pride that your computer not only works right but works well. And then overclocking was this entire little cult. It was like a hobbyist thing that turned into, now it's like you're not a PC gamer unless you're into the, water cooling your stuff and whatever. But back in the day, you could buy the cheaper processor because they were mostly the same processor, only they would disable things on the silicon itself. And then with the 300A specifically, I remember this, you could pencil in the traces on top of the CPU. You could really actually re-enable or increase the voltage somehow by literally using a graphite pencil to trace in the traces. It would enable the higher frequencies. So overclocking just means the frequency of your CPU going from 400 megahertz to 500 megahertz or whatever. You would increase how many operations per second it could do.
Ooh.
And it wasn't an island. So when you were overclocking, there was a thing called a front side bus, and that was the frequency at which your motherboard would talk to its peripherals. And if I remember correctly, the PCI clock on the front side bus in that generation was 33 megahertz. So it was acts as a multiplier for your CPU. So you would do 33 megahertz times a multiplier, and then you would get your effective CPU frequency. So you could attack your front side bus. You could run at 34, 35, 36 megahertz, but then maybe your peripherals, your sound card might drop out, or your LAN card might not like the higher frequency or whatever. So it was a balance. It was a constant game of trying to hold on to the most sand underwater to make a stable system at the highest possible frequency. And that's when it came into, you know, you needed the better power supply, you needed a cleaner power, you needed to up your voltage. It was just this constant cat and mouse game of like making your computer perfect and run extremely well and extremely fast and be stable.
And not catch fire.
Water cooling and everything and all that stuff.
That was it. Like, don't cast Fireball on your PC. That's what it was. Like,
cast Fireball.
I mean,
serious, because that would happen.
To the thing I was showing you guys earlier with this mouse pad, that's the hard OCP guys. You know, that was there was a community on hard OCP, and there was a forum called the Hard Forums. It still exists, where there's a general mayhem a section in the hard forums that gave rise to like the 4chan, and there was a general mayhem. Their own community spawned off of that, and anyway, we're getting away from things. But hard OCP, Kyle Bennett made this product called Rat Pads, and this is the first dedicated first-person shooter that I know of, mouse pad. And this coincided with also the release. Microsoft got into peripherals. The Microsoft Explorer mouse, the first dark gray one with the optical sensor, and it glowed red, and it was a high DPI sensor, and everybody was like, holy shit. And for first-person shooter games, it was that first mouse where you didn't have to pick it up. And then people were saying the Rat Pads, the finish on it, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it was specific to that optical sensor. It would help it track better and pick up more movements per physical. It put more input per physical movement. And all that stuff. So there's a whole cottage industry of this crazy gaming stuff that still exists today. You know, you spend more money on your water cooling setup than you do your CPU and motherboard combo, like stuff like that. It's just wild.
But it looks cool.
It's got RGB, so it's faster. Right?
RGB. All right. Who's next?
So real quick, just a question for both of you, because you said something that doesn't make sense to me. Isn't water and electricity bad? So how could you have like a water cooled something when you have all of these electrical components? I don't understand.
Hope it doesn't leak.
Yeah,
is that what it is? Okay.
You don't ever cross the streams. And Wolf, if you're a car guy, you can think of it the same way, where you have your radiator and your coolant. You know, if you've got a gasket problem and your coolant gets into your cylinders, and you make your oil milkshake, same thing. Never let the water escape. It's only got to be in very specific areas. But back in the era I was talking about, water cooling was using fish tank parts and oil cooling automotive radiators and hodgepodging shit together that didn't mean to work together. And people were using disparate metals. You had like an aluminum radiator and a copper water block. And then the kids were like, why is my computer growing green sentient beings inside? You know, because it's alkaline metal reaction and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And the industry just was like, wait a minute, we can sell these guys an AIO and for $300 and everyone will be happy. And it evolved, you know, quickly after that. Because the more you can cool your CPU, still to this day, the 13900K is so much as a furnace. You basically need water cooling to actually achieve the performance that it's capable of. And they're just throwing so much voltage and heat at it. You need something that can reduce that heat load so quickly. And, you know, water being twice as dense as air, physics.
Liquid nitrogen.
And then people do that too. And you can buy the crazy motherboards that have specific, you know, accommodations for LN2 and all that stuff.
Damn, man, it's like a whole, like, it's crazy.
This is part of my addiction. This is why I got into computer gaming. It's not
Yeah.
just the game, as you guys know. With my arcade, I spend
Oh,
more
sure.
time building and screwing around
Yeah.
than I do playing games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm learning a lot. Damn. Sweet.
I got a couple more of my favorites if you guys want me to just throw a couple
Hit
more
us.
out.
Yeah, let's hear.
So, these I'm gonna throw two together because they're point and click adventure games. Day of the Tentacle
Yeah,
and Sam and Max. I want to say Sam and Max Hit the Road. I think was the first one that they had.
hell yeah,
So
hell yeah.
those two in particular, of course, there's Monkey Island and all those other, but those two specifically, I remember playing for months. Just point and
Mhm.
click. What are we doing over here? What are we doing over here? We're gonna open this drawer. What is this gonna do? What's going on? The phone rings. You click on the phone,
Mhm.
and I remember those two specifically because they were freaking hilarious.
Yes.
Like the actual sound, the voiceovers, all that stuff was so great. And now you listen to them, and if you go back and you can actually hear what it sounded like, they were so computerized and robotic. But at that time, it still sounded more human than anything else we had heard at the time. And I remember that sticking with me. Hearing Sam and Max just give each other a hard time back and forth, and then Day of the Tentacle with like the adult themes that when you're a kid you don't even really think about it, and then all of a sudden now you start paying attention to some of the stuff now, and it's like, oh, hentai, got it.
Yeah.
So anyways, those two in particular, I remember I like those games. If anybody hasn't tried those ones, they're point and click. You can find them in lots of different spots. Sam and Max Hit the Road. I think there's a couple other. Sam and Max Save the World, I think, is another one. There's maybe 2 or 3 Sam and Max games. Day of the Tentacle is definitely a cult classic, as well as any of the Monkey Islands as well. So
Grim Fandango,
yep,
right?
that's another one too. Yep. So
I
Is
was
that
big into Full Throttle, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
another
Oh,
one. And I was going to ask you guys, is Day of the Tentacle, was that a Lucasfilm? Was that a
LucasArts.
LucasArts? Because
Yep.
Full Throttle was too, and I thought that was on the same island, maybe.
Yep, LucasArts. Yep.
did Tim Schafer work on that? Because for the humor, the guy that
I
did.
think so. I think so. Actually,
did he?
I'm remembering some. Yeah, I think. Yeah, because the humor was very specific.
It's like Grim Fandango, and Tim Schafer worked on that. So I'm wondering, like, if he worked on some of those earlier like games, because he also did Psychonauts, which
Oh, yeah.
is really funny, and Psychonauts 2, and he's been in the computer industry for a long time, and I love his humor.
Yep.
All those games that you said, he might have worked on them.
His humor was layered. That's what I liked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you could just take it for what it was, and then there was different layers to it, right? So you can. Sorry about the
Fact
cough.
check me on that, Adam. Tim Schafer. I wonder if he worked on the Day of the Tentacle, because that is a funny game, man, and that is,
I love that one.
yeah.
I gotta get some water. You guys keep talking. Next game.
Next game. Okay, let's see. I haven't even gotten to my secret weapon back here. Oh, I didn't even bring it out, but I've got a Command and Conquer Generals box.
Ooh,
That was
nice.
back when you still got boxes and
Yeah.
discs. And I remember the disc art was actually kind of cool because you had the different
Nice.
factions and stuff like that. What else we got back here? And for some reason, I must have bought it twice so my buddy and I could play, because I got another
You
different
got another copy.
Generals. And then before we go too far forward, you can't not talk about StarCraft 2 if you're into RTS.
Oh,
yeah.
StarCraft 2.
That's a great game.
Just saying.
Oh yeah.
'Cause this, to me, starts the whole Blizzard being Blizzard situation. Right? I mean, that's when Blizzard really came into its own. Warcraft 2, StarCraft 2, Diablo 2, they kind of cemented themselves as like the juggernauts that they still are today.
Yeah.
And because they're still independent, right? Did they merge or get bought in that whole like money grab thing 5 years ago when everybody was buying each other?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure isn't Blizzard Activision? Is that who we're
Oh,
talking
yeah, that's
about?
right. Activision.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I thought they partnered or bought or whatever. That whole thing. Oh, sorry.
Here
yeah,
he
I never
is.
found-
Tim Schafer, and I was right. He worked at the LucasArts. He's best known as the designer of Full Throttle, Grim Fandango, Psychonauts, Brutal Legend, Broken Age, and co-designer of the Day of the Tentacle, and Secret of Monkey Island, and Monkey Island 2.
Yep.
Holy crap, that's a heck of a
Yeah,
resume.
it's
So
a
you
nice
did Full
resume.
Throttle. That makes sense. Full Throttle was on that list, and I really enjoyed that one.
Yep.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Just for the folks who want to Google, how do you spell his last name? Because I couldn't find it.
Schaefer. It's Schafer.
Ah, I had two F's, and Wikipedia was like, I don't understand. All right, thanks for that. What else do we got? Can keep moving on first person shooters, your favorite subject?
Yep, whatever you want. Oh, that's the one. That's the freaking one that I stopped doing PC games when that came out.
3?
Yep, I did. I built a PC and it played Doom 3 perfect, and like 2 months later, the next game came out and it wouldn't even play on the machine. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not upgrading my machine anymore.
This was a crisis title back in the day. This made you upgrade, because if you didn't have basically the top echelon, the top 3 video cards,
yep,
you just forget about it. And then the console, every console version of this is horrible because they had to make it work, and it disabled the shadows, the shaders, the lighting effects,
all the stuff that made it cool and creepy.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything that made it what it is, they were like, oh, to get this to work on a console, we got to make it look like Doom 2. And it was just stupid. But this also has a special place in my heart, because this is believe it or not, this game is part of how I met my wife.
Nice.
Oh, way.
If I could tell that story real quick.
Yeah.
This game came out for me in college. I was playing this game. I literally built a new computer for this game. I still maintain that I feel like in college I had more disposable income then than I do now, because I was working I was working a campus job and I was doing computer stuff on the side. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, I built a game specifically for this because I knew it was coming out. It was an AMD card. Unfortunately, I don't remember which AMD card it was, but I do remember it was a shuttle, small form factor computer that I put red LED fans in, and that was like a big deal. That it was small form factor and it had RGB effects. It was kind of a fancy looking machine. So I was in an apartment above a tattoo shop. I was about 100 yards down the street from the popular campus bar. It was like midnight. The game had just come out. When you're a gamer, it's like the first night it comes out, you're like, I'm playing this game. That's it. I had my headphones on, and I was playing the game, all the lights off. And you guys know this game, headphones on, lights off. And this game's whispering in your ear like, I'm going to kill you and stuff like that. And there's lights and sounds. And I was just like so scared to turn away from the monitor. I was just crazy, like on edge. And then my cell phone, which was like a Nokia brick phone back in the day that just lit up the room when somebody was calling me. One of my friends called, scared the crap out of me. Pick up the phone and they're like, get to the bar. We're out to the bar. We're celebrating so-and-so's birthday. It's going to be fun. You need to get out of the house. You've been cooped up playing that stupid game all day. And I'm like, fine. And I go to the bar, I hang out with them. Guess whose birthday it was? It was Sarah's. It was the night I met her.
Whoa.
So if I didn't get up out of my chair and stop playing Doom 3, I wouldn't have met her.
Wow. That's really cool.
Just a wild story.
I think you and I have had somewhat similar stories. I had that too, where everything in my body told me no, and then something said yes, get up. And if I wouldn't have got up and gone out to that party that I didn't necessarily want to go to, I wouldn't have run into my wife at that point. Exactly the same.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just wild how life works like that. It's just weird, but it's just cool to have like your gaming obsession, intersects with real life stuff.
I have that actual, that's one of the games that I still have. I still have that actually, the disc and everything, just exactly like you have it.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. I still got.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. I love looking at that old. Some of the best artwork comes from the big box PC, man, because they gave you such cool things that like goodies inside and full color like manuals and just I could just stare at some of that artwork on some of those big box PC games. They're really awesome.
It was really cool, yeah, because they were like, some would come out with mouse pads and other ones would come out with like headsets. And some would even come out with like weird speaker grills. It was really, really cool stuff. And and it was like the first like limited edition stuff that like consoles started doing. they started bundling those types of things into their limited editions. Like that was just kind of a normal thing that PC had been doing for a long time, if you think about it. So yeah, very cool.
All right, I got two games that I want to throw out because I vividly remember this is when I like kind of was done with like PC games. Not because these games were bad, but because I was already like knee deep into like the consoles and stuff. And then I would do the PC gaming at other friends. But one is Fallout. And I
Ooh,
think it was like late 90s, like
the first
97. I thought
Fallout.
was really
The
cool.
first,
The first
yeah.
Fallout. And then the other one was Half-Life,
Oh,
which I think came out in 98.
yes, Half-Life
And
and Half-Life 2.
yeah, there it
Yeah.
is. Yep. And then I was out. Like I was just kind of done with PC gaming at that point. Yep.
Which was a
How could you
Counter-Strike
walk
too.
away from PC gaming after playing the
Yeah,
pinnacle?
and
I know.
Counter-Strike
Pinnacle.
too. Counter-Strike came around that
Yeah.
time too.
Yeah,
Remember?
the
right.
orange
You're
box,
right.
man.
Yeah.
Counter-Strike was bundled
Yep.
with this crap.
Yep.
Like, come on.
I know.
Yeah.
I was 97.
Too much first person.
Yeah, Half-Life
nope.
was 90. Yeah, I couldn't deal with it. 98 was trying to think what console was I was already like collecting for that.
That was going to be the same time as N64, so that was PlayStation. You were doing
Yeah,
PlayStation.
PS1. You're right. I was already knee deep in PS1. So
We had such a
Yep,
divergent
exactly.
experience 'cause-
We went like this.
Yep, I'm
Yeah.
just going deeper, and you guys are going, get me out of here.
Well,
Yeah.
what was crazy? So I imagine, Wolf, that it was the whole concept of needing to use a mouse to look and then strafe with the WASD,
Yeah.
all that stuff over there. And so, and I liken it to the same way that my wife doesn't do well with controller first-person shooters, right? She's the one that
Yes.
sits there in the corners, all staring up and spinning around, all weird.
Me
That was
too.
kind of right. That was kind of, where you were at with probably the keyboards, right?
Yep.
So whereas
No
Adam,
doubt.
totally different. So I
Yeah.
learned both ways because I liked first-person shooters and I played a lot of that stuff using mouse and keyboard, Counter-Strike and all that up until I decided to kind of walk away from PCs a little bit because I got tired of having to throw money into it all the time. So, and I was a poor kid, just a poor Puerto Rican boy. But yeah, that's and it's just if you don't do it, just like anything else, right? It's like somebody that has an Android phone and they want to switch to an iPhone. You just don't do it. It just doesn't feel natural, right?
Yep.
Same thing with controllers. If you haven't grown up with a controller in your hand, it doesn't necessarily feel right. So
Yeah.
I hear
Well,
what you're saying.
I tell my coworkers, technology is a muscle. You got to flex it. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's if you stop keeping up with technology, it'll run away from you faster than you can even.
Yeah.
Say, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, Dan, I know you alluded to this that Adam is the quote unquote spring chicken. I'm the oldest in this group of
Not
three
by
right
much.
here.
Not by much.
No, I'm 48.
Not by
So
much.
I mean, I pretty much came out of
Look,
the womb with
you
a
were still
ColecoVision
pooping yourself.
controller.
You were still pooping yourself at the time I was born. So so
That's
you're
a
still
good way
not
to
too
put it.
far
I like
away,
that.
right? So
Yeah.
it's all relative. But go ahead, buddy.
No, but I could just, like I was so engrossed in controllers, and I found it so frustrating because I had friends that were so good at computers, and they were just like, here's my hand. It would just go on the keyboard, and they were just like, and just going around corridors and shooting, and just like, and then I would try to do it, and it was like an orangutan monkey, that got on the keyboard, and I remember getting frustrated. And I'm like, I hate this.
Like the cat meme where he's like,
Yeah. I was like, why can't I be as good as anybody else on the keyboard? And I don't know. I should have kept with it, I guess.
It's personal preference, man.
Yeah.
Controllers, you hand me an Xbox controller and tell me to go in a first person shooter. Nope, I'm that guy that does the whole spin.
Yeah.
I can't deal. I don't know what it is. It's like brain thumb coordination just went out the window and then replaced it with how to connect a modem to the internet. I don't know.
But I can tell you though, Adam, it is like for me, it is like riding a bike or anything like that. So or driving a manual transmission, right?
Ah.
So because I've played so much both ways, I can do both. It's not like I can like, oh, I don't know how to do first person on the mouse and no, I've done it enough that it's like it's definitely like riding a bike. Oh, that's how it is. Boom. For flick aiming and stuff like that, yep, no problem. I can still, yet you still have to practice. Don't get me wrong. I can still do it. I'm not necessarily as good. I'd have to practice a little bit to get back to, but I can go back and forth because I spent a lot of time. And I remember, and I want to say, oh, I can tell you this. The the first controller that I forced myself to learn how to play was it was a little bit later than that for double thumbsticks was original first Xbox.
Ah, there you go.
Halo. Halo
Yep.
forced me to learn how to play on a controller. Like I was not down with the controller. I was like, nope, and I was like, nah, I don't want to mess with it. The one control stick was fine for like Dreamcast and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
but to play Halo, I had to learn how to play, and at that time it was the Duke controller, right? The
Yep. The
big
big guy.
controller. Yep,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
huge Kachanka one. But
Yeah.
but that's why that forced me, and I was terrible at it. Kind of like Adam right now, right? It's like, but I want to play this game so bad, so I forced myself to get used to it, and then all of a sudden it just clicked, and it's like,
And
all
that
right,
makes a lot of sense too, because I abandoned consoles before analog controls. My last
Mm,
real console that I invested time into was Sega Genesis. After
yep,
that, there were things my sister played. I didn't deal with that.
yep,
Um, I remember very
Mm.
distinctly, she got PlayStation 1 for Christmas, didn't even have the version of the controller that had analog sticks,
right,
and her game was something Barbie, like literally.
nice,
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
wasn't even a part of my radar. I was so engrossed in the computer stuff.
Right.
I'd moved on. That was a toy now to me.
Right.
right. You're off onto bigger and better things that were more like Legos. You just keep changing
And I was
Legos
a
up.
Lego kid
Yep,
too, so
and you
that makes
liked it.
sense too.
Right.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense.
I only got one more game left to talk about,
All right.
so I'm gonna throw it out there if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah.
So the last game I'm going to talk about because I lost. Well, okay. So I'll touch on two really quick. One, World of Warcraft. You had already talked about Warcraft. World of Warcraft. I played for a while. Ended up I stopped playing it when I realized that I was losing full days. Like
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
a whole weekend would just disappear. Like a day would disappear, and I'd be like, dude, I've only used the bathroom twice today, and I haven't eaten
Yeah.
anything.
Not
Like
good.
like for me, again, some of you that don't know me, these guys know me pretty well. I don't like being controlled. I really don't. And addiction is a form of control, and it freaking drives me nuts. So I'm pretty unique in
Mhm.
that situation where I got like a shell where I just go nope, and I can flip the switch, and I'm like done. And that's exactly what I did with World of Warcraft. It wasn't like, oh, you had a situation with somebody and you had to
Mhm.
choose. Nope. I flat out was like, nope, I'm done with this. Nope, I'm done. And it wasn't because we were getting killed or spawn killed or chased down. And no, it was just like I realized there's like months that I almost didn't remember anything, and I'm just like, I'm going to work,
Mm.
I'm hurrying up, coming home from work, and I'm just playing this. And I was like, no, time's just disappearing. I'm done. And I'm not knocking anybody that likes World of Warcraft, but for me, it was waiting 3 hours to do some dungeon run because you're trying to get
Yeah.
a group of people together, and it was like you were just expected to always be available 4 to 6 hours, just to
Yeah.
get 2 runs in to try and maybe get this drop. And I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm finished with it. But
It,
the one that I wanted to touch on more than that is the one that I played the most and I actually enjoyed it a lot was EverQuest.
oh, you
Ooh.
stole mine. I was gonna bring that one up.
EverQuest, and specifically the what was it? The frog locks. Do you remember those? What were they called?
Oh,
Their other name was like a G name. What was their actual G name? It was hang on, let me see. Was it like it was like Gungans or something like Guktons? It was like Gungan, but not. If I remember right, like the Gungans um, from Star Wars Episode One. It sounded like that. They were a little bit different, but the Froglocks, that character class, they were frogs, and I thought it was freaking dope. I was a sweet red and black frog. I just remember that. Oh, so much fun back in the day playing EverQuest. I had a lot more fun playing EverQuest with my brother-in-law than I did playing World of Warcraft with my brother-in-law. Like
really? That's
so,
interesting.
yep, World of Warcraft. I was like, all right, I'm done. Yep, I was cool with it. I, got a high level. I was able to, I was a rogue, undead rogue, so I'd be stabbing and
Oh man.
ganking fools, and like it was fun, and they liked having me go around. But I was like, I don't like losing full days. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Mhm.
remember about the end of that era of PC gaming was that. So
Wolf, did you get into Warcraft?
I,
Warcraft?
I didn't, but I heard horror stories of like
I've
what
got
Dan's talking about, like people that I want to say I remember reading in China they would have the kind of these places that you would go to and it was dark and they would have World of Warcraft up and they lost track of time. It was like casinos. They purposely didn't have sunlight come in and you got lost in these worlds. The guys would get up from their chair and there would be like divots in the floor and stuff. Like it was sick.
Yep.
It was like almost mind controlling. But I remember reading it. I had some friends that were into it, but I was kind of out on PC gaming at that point. So
For me, my story first for EverQuest, because I believe that was before World of Warcraft 3. Both of those games I did not get into, but I lost my freshman year dorm room roommate. He failed out of school because of EverQuest, and we called it Evercrack, and that was where I was introduced to this world where you're traveling. I remember distinctly seeing him. He's on a boat, he's moving, and he's like, okay, we can go get dinner now because my character is going to be on this boat for the next 20 or 30 minutes. And then I can just arrive at the next land or whatever that was. Like, I never played it, but I always would look over his shoulder. And, for him, his experience was first year away from home in the dorms, playing that game. He was responsible, first semester, but second semester, he just never went to class. And the dude failed out. And I felt bad. Like, I kept trying to get him to play first person shooter games with me in Unreal Tournament and stuff, but it just, I don't know. And then second of all, my best friend Chris, he was he was addicted. World of Warcraft got him because I remember towards the end, and he knows this, we talked about it. I wanted to help him, and we were living together at the time. I would specifically bring the network down for him in the games, just the game, just to get him to open his eyes and go outside and use the bathroom and stuff like that. Like, it was just wild. And I remember when he finally was coming out of it and we were able to look back on it, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe if he watches this in the comments, but I want to say his overall time in the game was over 73 days.
Yeah.
Just playing World of Warcraft.
It's addiction, like Dan said. It was serious. Yep. And money spent too. Was that the game where you could spend like a lot of money too?
It was like 15. Was it
stuff?
$5
or $10 a month,
a month,
plus every 6 or 8, 12 months they had expansion packs that were 20, 30, $40. I want to say it was man, he lost time. Like, that was a weird time in his life where he was just like you, Dan, is going to work, playing the game, going to work, playing the game. He didn't move himself forward personally or professionionally for years. It was really weird.
Yeah.
And I tried to help him a few times, and forcibly so a few times. So Chris, I apologize, but it was for the for the betterment of
yeah. We love you, Chris. Just know that.
Yeah,
we love and appreciate you.
We had some heated arguments over it for sure, but I think it all turned out better in the end.
Right. But I will tell you, my favorite South Park episode is Make Love Not Warcraft. That episode is freaking hilarious. But maybe because I actually saw myself going down that path, and I'm just so stubborn that I was stubborn enough to go, nope, and I pulled myself out before I got to that point. But yeah, I could easily see that. People losing their day. I mean, but think about it, right? If people are, their life is a little out of control, they can control that world, right? So if their life is out of control, it's an escape, right? And so some people escape into drugs and alcohol and all that other kinds of stuff. But a lot of times people will just escape to their world, right? They escape to this other world where they feel safe. They can be who they want to be. They can be as strong or as weak or whatever. And it's very appealing for a lot of people. And Wolf, I remember like the horror stories of people dying in those cafes, those internet cafes.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep, the internet cafes in like South Korea, I think was the biggest ones. Like South Korea, people would just die like all the time just because they didn't eat right.
They wouldn't eat. They wouldn't eat.
They go like they do. Oh yeah, this person was on a 22-hour session on their computer when they croaked. And how many? They had like 30 coffees and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, you're gonna have a heart attack and not eating food, okay?
Yeah.
But
blessing and a curse that didn't happen and coincide with the streaming generation. Because
Oh
can you
gosh,
imagine how much worse that would have been?
Jeez, you're not kidding.
dude,
I
streamers
mean,
just dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're still dying because of mental illness a lot of times, but
Sure.
still,
Mhm.
and it's,
yeah. And it's one of the like you said, it's one of the most benign addictions out there, but it still is.
Yep.
It's escapism at
Mhm.
its core. It's what it is.
Right.
But I don't know what you guys are thinking for timeline wise. Do we have time for like a bonus lightning round?
Yes, bonus lightning round. Go for
Yeah.
it. We got a few more minutes. Oh,
Here
here
we
it is.
go.
Let's go. Let's look at it. We'll end
Oh,
this
the
on the good.
treasure trove.
Yeah, dude.
This I don't even know what's in here, so maybe edit this out or something. But we'll
Nope.
see.
There's
No
no
editing.
editing. Nope.
There's no editing.
This is
in
No
them, Paul.
editing.
Nope.
Oh no!
One,
I'm gonna have to
one
like
take.
Vanna
We
White.
sit down and we do this live.
All right, so
I
I
love it.
opened up. The first thing I see is Battle for Dune. It's a Westwood Studios RTS,
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay, cool.
which I don't even remember, but it's back in the day, Westwood Studios RTS. That's a buy. Doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It's like Atlas. Anything
Yep.
Atlas.
Yes. There you go, Dan.
Anything Atlas when it comes to a console. Oh yes,
Windows
dude.
98.
Oh my gosh.
Then you had the Command and Conquer Tiberian Sun.
Ah, so good.
We had the did you guys? This is a first person shooter game, so maybe not for you, Wolf, but
Oh
Star
yeah.
Trek Voyager.
I've heard of
Elite
it.
Force.
Yep.
Yep.
That was a big. That was like a really nice distraction. I want to say that used the Quake 3 engine. And then this one, Descent 3. that
Oh,
old
Descent.
Oh, Descent.
Yeah,
Yes.
Big time.
Descent.
Des-
That game, it was out for. It came out for like 3DO. I think was what it was first.
Yeah, you're right.
released.
3DO.
That was like the
Huh.
3DO system seller was Descent, and then it came out on PC. Yep, there it is.
Half-Life.
Half-Life Opposing Force. That was like an add-on when Half-Life blew up. That
Oh,
was like
no.
a DLC, but you bought it in real life kind of thing.
I wonder if Adam has Star Control too.
Oh, really?
Do you have that game?
Star Control? No, I don't know if
2?
I've heard of that one.
It's kind of like what Dan's playing now. It's like Starfield. It's very like in the space type of thing,
the
which
space
I never
realm?
got into. But
And before we leave the space realm too, I have a distinct memory about Descent. I was either Descent 1 or Descent 2. Back in high school, I was doing a exploring technology. I think it was like an independent study. Anyway, they had a VR helmet, like the one from Hackers, like the crazy huge one. They could never get it to work. And I remember just banging on it. And it was one of those weird GPU things where you had the 2D and 3D card.
Mm-hmm.
I remember opening up the case and there was literally like a toggle switch on the video card. I want to say it was something to do with the memory allocation.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, got the VR headset working in Descent.
Oh,
And it was like,
dude.
whoa, because it had one of those vertical hockey puck things for one of the Y or X axes. And it would track your head. You do this, and then you would move forward by rotating the hockey puck. Wild experience in high school.
Oh,
But Descent,
dude.
yeah, that was a big one for me. And then also,
Oh yeah, Duke Nukem.
yeah.
Duke Nukem 3D.
Yep.
You gotta
Shake it,
give a shout
baby.
out to that one. But these,
Classic.
like you said, Wolf, the artwork on this stuff,
Oh, definitely.
it just slaps.
I
Quake
know.
3,
I
Yeah.
love the artwork.
It's in its own.
And
little,
if you turn it around, you'll see something really scary on the
what?
backside. Yep, grab Quake 3. Now turn it around. Yep, see something
Oh.
scary there?
The mirror
Your,
gas.
your own reflection.
Your reflection. Oh, look what I just
Oh.
found. The motherboard driver disc for my first computer that I built.
Ah,
Whoa.
yes. There you go. You
Leave
still
it.
got a piece of it. You still got a
Damn.
piece.
Still got a piece of it. Oh, did you guys ever screw with it? This was software, but Kai's Power Goo. It was like the TikTok of 1995 where you could stretch your face out and make you smile weird and stuff.
No,
No, I never heard
the
of
only
that.
thing I remember messing with is when I would, well, never mind. When I knew people that would burn discs from LimeWire
I didn't-
and
I
Napster.
didn't
I
do
don't
that
know. I didn't, but I'm just people that would do.
Weird.
I remember making and printing and designing those printout CD covers, like to put them on the
Yes.
disc. I
Yes,
remember
that
that
was
stuff
fun.
too. That was cool.
That was fun. Another expansion for Command and Conquer Red Alert, the Aftermath.
Yes.
Pod. Did you guys play Pod? That was a big one back in the day for
Yep.
PC type. That was like a racing, like a
Pod.
F-Zero
Yep.
kind of game. Let's see what else we got.
It was more. It was more like no. It was more like Wipeout.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
meant. But
okay.
like a
Oh yeah, you're right. F-Zero is kind of like Wipeout. Yep.
F-Zero's same
Yep.
vein.
Total
Oh,
Annihilation.
Did we ever do
yes.
that's another legendary RTS title. This was the first like polygon RTS
Yep.
that really took off.
So those of you watching this out in the world, make sure you have your notepad out and you're jotting these titles down, at least to look them up, because you might enjoy some of them. There
Day
it is.
the Tentacle.
Look at the artwork.
Look at the artwork is classic.
It's so good.
Yep.
Tim
Did you guys
Schafer.
play? I think we talked about this maybe in our own
Yep.
chats personally. Rise of the Robots.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
that
was one-
Adam, you've mentioned that a couple times in
This was one of those releases that was like
Yeah.
a legendary game that everybody was waiting for it to come out, and it came out and it sucked.
Right. Yep.
It's one of the first like disappointments. Oh, here's one we talked about.
Missed.
Yeah.
Damn,
And-
man, you got them all.
Told you I play this stuff. There's your Dark
Right,
Forces.
there it is.
Yeah, oh my goodness, jeez.
You know what it is? Adam lives in an area where there isn't random theft. That's why he still has it. Like
I lived out in
anybody-
the sticks most of my life.
Yeah, anybody that around here that you have anything like that in their vehicle, it just the windows are broken.
Gone.
Here's a first-person shooter we didn't mention, Rise of the Triad. That
Oh,
was a big one
yep.
in my friend group.
I've
I
heard of
remember that one too. That was a first person, right?
Yeah,
I
it was
remember
quick.
that. That
Yes.
that. I
game
heard
was,
of that.
Rise of the Triad was freaking dope.
Flight Simulator, I've heard of. Yep.
Yes.
Rise of the Triad had the occult
Yep.
kind of thing where you could, shoot laser beams from your hand and stuff.
It was.
But yeah,
that was crazy.
I have every version of Flight Sim that ever
Yeah.
existed. I was a huge Flight Sim guy. When I did the Young Eagles program with EAA, I had my Flight Sim setup was certified so I could log hours in my flight book when I was a Young Eagles
Nice.
student. It was, wild. Oh, Star Wars Rebel Assault. We didn't talk about that one either. That was a big game back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one that no one's heard of. This is one of the 17 discs of Under Killing Moon. That's what I
Never
was
heard of that
thinking
one.
You know what, Adam? Is that on the big thing?
I think it might be. And they did a remaster release too recently. So I bought that on Steam. Yeah. Might be one you guys want to check out because it is a lot of fun if you like FMV games. Original Red Alert. Oh, I totally forgot about this. We didn't talk about a lot of racing games, but did you guys play Carmageddon?
Yep.
Yes.
So Carmageddon.
N64.
I remember, dude. I remember Carmageddon, and I remember the original. What was it? The first Need for Speed.
Yeah,
The
that
first
was
Need
big
for
too.
Speed.
How about Outlaws? That's kind of an out there game. That's an FPS. It's a Western themed FPS. Here's that Sim Tower game I was telling you about.
Nice.
This was before Sims got weird.
Yeah, it's always
Did you
been
guys
weird.
get into the Thief series?
Yep.
Was
Oh,
that?
Thief.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's is that stealth? Right? Yeah.
One of the first stealth games.
Yep.
And my Indian friend always used to pronounce it Thief, and we made fun of him. It was fun.
Ah.
Yeah, Warcraft 2.
I remember this. This is part of my arcade addiction.
Wasn't Ghost in a Shell?
Oh, Virtue Squad.
didn't
Yeah.
that reminds me of Ghost in a Shell. What was the one you just pulled out before?
Thief,
No. No.
Virtua Squad, and then I got Area
Yeah, that's
51 on PC release.
Nice.
Which is a wild thing to have.
I remember House of the Dead 2 I had on, or House of the Dead, the first House of the Dead I had on PC.
Speak of the devil.
That's it. I remember it. There it is.
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed. What else we got in here?
God darn, he's got a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, dude, I went deep.
Pull
And then-
pull out a couple more, Adam, before we close this thing up. Keep going.
Okay. I think we got Test Drive Off Road. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Racing.
I love that
and
you
then
have them.
did you guys? This is probably a deep cut, maybe, but everybody saw the movie. But did you play War Games?
No.
the game?
Nope.
So this was actually an RTS with mechs.
Oh.
Ooh,
Wild-
don't say mechs in front of Dan.
Exactly. So you might want to check this out. This was an late 90s, early 2000s mechs. I want to say it's one of those games where they were developing it. It didn't have a name, didn't have a title. And they're like, oh, let's just slap War Games on it because mechs or something. That's what it felt like. But the game was
Cool.
actually pretty cool. And then here, maybe we got to end on a banger. I don't know what that is. I thought it was a Serious Sam. Yeah, I think that's a Serious Sam disc, but it actually doesn't say Serious Sam on it. So that ending on it with a bang, and then now we're getting into like the cutesy stuff like Clue.
Oh,
Lou.
So, but yeah, I don't need to keep digging through this. I'm about halfway through it.
that's really cool. I
Damn,
love
Adam, that's so dope.
see Wolf, you and I with our consoles and all our random games that we got going on, and Adam has it all in one binder.
I
Like
love it.
the whole collection, everything in one binder.
I
Yeah,
love
everything
it.
I kept is basically on the shelf. I've got a few more things, my IKEA shelves that you guys are probably seeing over there, but that's more modern PC games and stuff. The last of the you could still buy a box with a disc in it kind of games.
Yep. So here we are to the end, and normally we would talk about how collectible it is for whatever. Older PC games, not super collectible. You're not really gonna find. I mean, like you get some of these games and trying to put them into a modern PC and trying to get them to play. Good luck. And how many modern PCs still have disk drives? So it's a little
Yeah.
bit different. I don't see us being able to give it really a grading scale. That's not what we're going to be able to do here. This is just more of a nostalgia. A lot of these games have been re-released. You can purchase them. You can look into getting some of the ones that we mentioned. You can look them up. Maybe if something seems to interest you. I know a lot of these things you can find emulated. So
Yeah.
if you
Well,
really want to,
a lot of this stuff is I think it's a great time to plug good old games, GOG, because
GOG.
they're
Oh
they're
yeah,
an-
yeah.
they're just like Steam, but they're anti-DRM and they're preservationists. They make sure stuff like that sticks around, and they work with the developers and the original publishers and the original creators, and it's a great
Oh, that's
community.
cool. I never heard of that.
Yeah, GOG, it integrates with Launchbox. You
Yep.
sign into your GOG account, brings them all down just like Steam. If you're into old stuff, they have hardware emulation layers, both for DOSBox and FPMU that emulates Windows 95. Like this is a whole hobbyist rabbit hole as well. But just thought I'd shout out GOG because if you want to look some of your childhood up for PC games, that's the first place to start.
Or even if you want the history, like even if you're younger and you're like, dude, I never even thought about these. Let me look at some of these. Some of these sound pretty fun. Like again, a lot of the really big titles that we talked about there have been re-released, so they'll be easier to find on Steam and whatever. But some of
Yeah.
these other more obscure games, then you might have to go, like I said, GOG and all that. So,
Yep.
all right. So I don't have a grade for it, so I can't grade it.
A
But
A plus.
yeah, A plus for old PC games. Yeah,
Yeah.
put it this way, old PC games, there was something for everybody. There just
definitely.
was. There was something for everybody. It was like the Wild West, kind of like older consoles like Atari and stuff. Just people just throwing whatever kind of games they want at it. Original Nintendo, very similar. It was like anything that anybody wanted and wanted to put a little money behind, they could throw it out. And so it is the Wild West. There's lots of choices. Lots
I'm
of
going to
stuff for
throw
other
this
people.
out here real quick for Adam. I'm going to the flea market tomorrow. If I ever see a complete inbox, 80s, 90s, 2000 big box PC games, people are sell them for $1 or $2. Do you want
Yep.
me to just pick them up for you and I'll bring it to Chicago?
Hey, for stuff, it's one of those things where I would love to have the big box art for titles that I actually played myself. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it's PC gaming or maybe it's just me. If I didn't play it myself when I was younger, I have zero interest in collecting
Right.
it.
Right. So it's got to be nostalgic to what you remember.
Exactly. And
Okay.
that's why I have this binder. It's like everything else. I wanted to keep some of the nostalgia, but everything else I know I pitched. I don't have much more than what you guys just
Gotcha.
saw. So
Okay.
that's how I roll. But
Right. So I give the grade for me is an F.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
There you go.
F for fun.
Yep, F for fun.
I'm teasing. I just wanted to see Adam's expression.
Hey man, to each his own. Like consoles, computers, you just do your own thing. You can't no hate.
Did you take note to that too? Yeah, Adam didn't immediately attack him for his opinion. There's
I
a
know. I
lesson.
love it.
There's a lesson
love
for
it.
people out there.
Yeah,
Exactly. Have fun in your own, just have fun in your own pool and don't pee in it. That's just a general rule to live by.
Yeah,
Like,
you only
come
pee
on,
in your
man,
friend's
we're
pool.
all exactly. We're all in it together. Like hey, if you like to do the thing and you're not hurting somebody, have fun, whatever.
Nice. Well, this episode was lots of fun, you guys. I want to say thanks for both of you, Wolfman and Arcade Adam, for coming and hanging out, dropping knowledge and sharing a few laughs. This was a great time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was awesome.
And if you guys have anything else that you want to say, oh, first off, make sure you check out Arcade Adam's YouTube channel.
Yep,
Arcade Adam. You can
definitely.
also find his Etsy store, and he has a link to his spread shop. Some awesome merch. I'm wearing some of it right now. So
Mine's upstairs.
go and check him out. He's doing a lot of stuff, a lot of his fun, cool build videos. If you like this kind of nerd stuff, that's the guy to check out. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that fun stuff to him, and he comes out with some really fun things.
Yep.
Thanks for having me, guys. I had a lot of fun.
And make sure to subscribe to Dantron69K, because we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for him and his channel and all the cool stuff that he does, all the gameplays, you know, the little stuff that you did, like taking apart the GameCube. You do all these like kind of fun stuff, and I just think it's awesome. And it takes 2 seconds to hit a subscribe button, and you know, you're privy to all the stuff that he does for both of these guys. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
As seen on Scantron's stream as well.
69 coins.
That's
Oh
right.
man.
No, hit up Dantron's store too. I'm wearing his merch because that's how we roll. We wear each other's merch because that's the kind of community we got here.
That's it. All love.
Definitely.
Anyways, you guys, thanks again, and until next time, see you guys. Peace.
Peace.